But in keeping with that, we decided to update the format, and so you'll see here an asterisk 4. This is a course that was impacted previously by changes to policy EIC local. Again, here's one that has asterisk 2. This was a course that in some way along the way was impacted by some type of change to policy EIC. And so we're just doing some formatting adjustments to that. I'm going to share with you what it will look like. So obviously all these color codings are for TASB to be able to adjust our policy, but I want to share with you what it'll look like once the changes are in place. I believe it's this one. So what you will see, all those little asterisk 2, asterisk 4, asterisk 5, all of those are changes that have happened over time to policy EIC. And so whenever someone sees something with an asterisk, they will come here to the end and they'll be able to determine what that asterisk meant. So asterisk 1 means that there was a change that was effective with the freshmen in 2011-12 dealing with foreign language. You'll see any course that has an asterisk 2. This was a course that was somehow impacted in 13-14. Anything with an asterisk 3 was a course that was somehow impacted in 17-18. Anything with an asterisk 4 were changes that were impacted in 18-19. And you'll see asterisk 5, which are those courses that we are going to designate as honors courses. So should we have another change at some point to EIC, then we would move into creating an asterisk 6. Again, this is for the purpose of keeping all the historical changes that happened to policy EIC along the way, so that if we ever have to reference back to a particular graduating class, we'll be able to truly understand how their particular GPA was impacted. So again, those are the two changes, changing our courses to honors for the fall of 2022, and then formatting changes to better monitor changes that happen to policy EIC local. Those are the only recommendations. Are there any questions that I can address for you?
Any questions, board members? Dr. Reiniger?
Well, thank you. I really don't have a question, but I do really like the way you have proposed tracking change over time and, denoting it so that it's very easy to understand. And I like the descriptions of each change, because historically that'll really help. So just to commend your work. Thank you.
So we are going to be bringing this policy forward tonight on first reading at our regular board meeting. We have enough time. Obviously, these changes don't go into effect until fall 2022. But like I mentioned, they do impact our freshmen, and so we'll be doing a lot of advising here in this upcoming year for our freshmen as they start doing coursework for sophomore year. So we want to make sure that this policy was in place already. But we do have time to bring it forward on 2 readings, and so tonight we'll be bringing it forward only on first reading, and then following that up in July.
I have a couple of questions. I agree, and thank you, Dr. Reiniger, for stating it eloquently as always. I do also very much appreciate the history, having been involved in several cases. Looking back, didn't have the history in a ready form. I appreciate this very much. I wanted to ask a couple of questions, and forgive me because I suspect that we have gone over this in the past, but it could have been a long time ago. I'd like to know what the independent English course is.
Sure, that independent study course, and that one is typically provided to students who have a particular interest in studying something that falls outside of the traditional English coursework. Sometimes there may be something in particular that they are interested in studying, and so usually we will use that coursework to give them credit for that type of study. We rarely use it, I will tell you, but every once in a while that we'll have a special situation where a student has a special interest, and provided that it falls within the TEKS for that coursework, we're able to allow students to take that course.
And that's an honors designation?
Correct. It requires a lot of independent work. It also requires them to do a presentation around their work. It's almost like can almost be like a graduate course thesis type of thing where they do a lot of study, put together presentation around what they have learned and things of that nature. Sometimes takes a pretty special student to be ready to do that at the high school level, but every once in a while we do have students that are able to meet that level of rigor, and so they have an opportunity to take that course.
I think it's absolutely wonderful. What we're trying to do is to be the school district that does offer opportunities at all levels. And so I am delighted to see that we are doing this. Frankly, I've got to acknowledge that I was not aware of that. I think it's
And we have an independent study course in all 4 of the content areas. There's one in science, social studies, English, and math. And so again, we've used it in the past, and sometimes it just depends as our counselors are working individually with students that we find that we may have some students that have those types of special interests, and so we're able to offer that course and give them credit for what they're studying.
That's excellent. And I recall the discussion on this, but I want to just confirm. We are no longer giving any designation, AP or honors, to the foreign languages.
We do give foreign language here when you look at the AP Spanish 5, and their pre-AP Spanish is in here. But for the pre-AP Spanish 3, that one will no longer have a pre-AP designation.
Why would we do Spanish and not French or Japanese or German or Russian or anything else?
So you'll see here you have a pre-AP French 3 as well, that the College Board dropped the pre-AP designation on those courses.
Okay.
So that pre-AP French 3 and the pre-AP Spanish 3, those are courses that were impacted by the removal of the pre-AP designation. We still have it available in AP French 4 and AP French 5, and the same thing for the Spanishes. But anything lower than AP level 4s, those will no longer have pre-AP designations.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just want to be sure that it's consistent among all languages, because as we're in the World Languages Academy,
absolutely,
any languages.
And there will be a point when we, as we get through and move through our World Languages Academy, that we probably will have to start adding our Chinese into this. I would imagine in another couple of years we're going to have our students that go through the World Languages Academy wanting to continue the Mandarin Chinese.
Absolutely. And we can do that then. I'm delighted to see that. Well, thank you so much, Alicia. And also I would just like to emphasize that I believe I understood you said that when we were considering the choice of the terminology, we did consult with various universities.
That's correct, Mrs. Fleurier. When we were trying to determine if we're not going to be able to call it pre-AP, how do we distinguish it as advanced coursework? And so we did a lot of follow up with some of our post-secondary institutions, and if it wasn't pre-AP or AP, what other terminology were they seeing? Because obviously they work with school districts across the country that they readily recognized as being advanced coursework. And so what they were sharing with us was that honors was typically the other terminology that was used to reference advanced coursework. And so we wanted to make sure that we were using terminology that no matter where our students went for post-secondary, that institutions would readily recognize that what they had taken was honors coursework. It'll still be denoted just by virtue of the GPA points that we award on a transcript, but at first glance, most people read the titles of courses, and so we wanted that title to be able to be easily recognized as denoting advanced coursework.
I really appreciate the in-depth way you did the study. Thank you so much.
Ms. Fleurier, could I ask one? It's not a question about the policy, but it's a little related.
Certainly, please.
Thank you. I was wondering, because I know you all have thought through this, for the parents and the community who, are going to have these freshmen coming in and things are changing. Do you mind just speaking about the approach that you're going to take to make sure people understand this who are, not in the mix, so to speak?
So when we make these changes, we make them obviously in written form, and so those will start to appear in all our course description books. And so we'll have the explanation of the transition that College Board is making in some of this coursework. But beyond that, we start a lot of these conversations with our students in their 8th grade year because we work on their 4-year plan when they are in 8th grade. So as they start identifying what courses they're going to take freshman year, we actually do a 4-year plan for our students. And so within that 4-year plan, and our counselors meet with every parent at the 8th grade level, with parents and students. And so they have those conversations with them, explaining the differences between pre-AP programming, advanced programming, the advanced coursework, I should say, as well as where this honors program will come into play. But then even beyond that, we have at the freshman level, there is a meeting that all of our pre-AP students have with all of their counselors. They have a pre-AP night, in essence. And part of that was done so that all of our students and their families understood what College Board was going to be calling for from the pre-AP program. But within that night is also when we're going to have the conversations about some of the changes that College Board has made to the program and how it will impact future coursework that our freshmen will be taking moving forward. So try and do a lot of that communication, not just in written form, but certainly within every opportunity we have where we're bringing our parents in.
Excellent.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad we're doing that still. That's very helpful. Any other questions or comments?
So real quick, Dr. Nella, we're also at the middle school dropping the pre-AP designation, correct? So they'll get introduced to that concept.
We're going to do that for the fall of 2022. Okay. And so we won't make those changes this coming year, but once we start putting the verbiage out about honors, we'll also be doing that with our middle school programming. Technically, there are no pre-AP courses at the middle school level. College Board has never had pre-AP courses. Pre-AP just became, but they did offer training in general pre-AP. And so all of our middle school teachers would go to these pre-AP trainings that would happen in the summer so that they would understand what were how they created pre-AP programming within that coursework. But ultimately, what College Board is going to do is they have streamlined it to the point where nobody can use pre-AP in their title unless it's an identified course that College Board has approved, and then College Board needs to give approval to any school that wants to use their pre-AP. They've copyrighted that term, and so nobody can use it without permission. I think what was happening was that they were starting to find that a lot of school districts were putting pre-AP in front of any course and basically calling it pre-AP when in actuality the rigor wasn't necessarily there. And I'll tell you that at our level we would see that quite a bit when we'd have transfer students coming in from other districts, and you'd see pre-AP in front of courses that we would be offering almost as remediation. But it just became, I think it just got very loose. And so College Board decided to tighten all of that and has in essence said, these are the only 12, 13 courses that we will have a pre-AP designation to. No other course can have that. And so with that thought in mind, there are no middle school courses that College Board will allow to have a pre-AP designation either. So honors will become our default to any course that we are offering as advanced coursework, and that will become the label across our district for all of that coursework outside of pre-AP.
So another area where that became problematic was from private schools coming into public schools.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so
yeah.
We have the top 12 banquets, right, at the middle schools, and there were a couple of private schools that had just general courses, and when the kids weren't making the top 12, they went back and said all our courses are pre-AP. well, they hadn't gone through the training, that kind of stuff. So it became problematic. And so I think this is a great thing for the College Board to be moving in this direction because it keeps the integrity of the program intact. And that's what we've been missing. So I think that it's a great opportunity to really strengthen the program at the secondary level, at the high schools in particular.
Any questions, Dr. Reiniger?
No, I'm really glad to understand that. Very interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? Good point, but in an opposite direction, I would like to ask a question regarding that, if I might, please. And that is, as I say, the opposite situation. I'm aware. Well, of course, you all are aware of Keystone as well because we've used it as a resource for us in the past, and some of our staff has visited there. And my memory is that they don't necessarily worry about the designation of the courses, but in fact, the intent and in fact the reality is that in the 8th grade, they formally begin preparing students for the AP tests. They don't necessarily worry about, is it called that? Their teachers are just dedicated to that as part of the instruction goal of all 8th graders. Hence, of course, they have fabulous AP scores. So, Alicia, my question is, I guess kind of like what Belinda was asking earlier, how are we going to ensure that our middle schools, given this new structure, which I agree with Dr. Cavazos, I do approve of the new way we're designating things, how are we going to be sure that no one slips up and forgets along the way? We are not asking for less rigor. In fact,
one of the things that we did, Laurier, this year, actually we started this process 2 years ago, but when we were doing textbook adoptions, we actually adopted Springboard, which is the College Board curriculum in math and English.
yes.
And that is what we are using at our middle schools. And so our teachers have gone through extensive training on all of those materials. We wanted to make sure, because the materials that they have created are really designed to do that, to better align and prepare students leading towards AP programming. In the past, we had used our traditional textbook and then incorporated all our pre-AP programming, pre-AP strategies, and so forth. But the textbooks that we adopted in English and math with College Board are very much aligned to AP programming and pre-AP programming. And so as we have developed all our scope and sequences and curriculums, they're really aligned to that, so that we are staying within those pre-AP parameters, and regardless of whether we have a pre-AP title or not, we are incorporating that curriculum into what we're doing in English and math. And actually, that is the core curriculum in our English and math programming, so that regardless of whether we have that pre-AP designation or not, we're still using the same curriculum.
That's excellent. Is that part of Springboard? Are we still using Springboard?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we had started Springboard with just math initially, and then we adopted it in English for middle school. And then with this last adoption, we also adopted it in English at Ghana with the Freshman Academy there as well. So we are really looking, as we move through these textbook adoptions, as much as possible to work through the College Board curriculum and that Springboard, because the curriculum was developed by by College Board. So it's curriculum that's aligned to prepare students for that AP coursework or that AP exam down the line.
Thank you very much. Dr. Cavazos, although we have talked about this, and I recall that we have talked about this, I think that might be an excellent topic of interest for the board at a teaching and learning committee meeting, if I might make that suggestion to Dr. Reiniger. I think that it's really imperative for us to keep that focus as we go forward, and for us, I mean the board. And so to know that in detail how we're doing that within the middle school structure, I think that it would be worthy of a little recap for us.
Definitely.
Definitely can do that.
Okay. Anything else, Dr. Reiniger or Dr. Noyola?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, then I guess we are ready to wrap up this committee meeting.
I had a quick question, Ms. Fourier, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
no, and I didn't hear who else was here. I apologize. Please, all of your questions.
No, I just wanted to ask, just on the AP, subject of AP, and I don't know, maybe this is not unfair, maybe this is an unfair question, but I'm assuming that Dr. Cavazos or Dr. Noyola may have some insight on this, but we're seeing a trend regionally, I know, and then maybe even across the state, but definitely Region 1, of increased participation in AP classes. Are we pretty confident that Harlingen is even surpassing the regional increase in AP participation that other school districts are seeing? Are we pretty confident that we're doing better in terms of getting more students to participate in AP and to take the AP tests and that kind of stuff? I know we're tracking that, but do we have any knowledge on how we're doing in comparison to other folks in Region 1? Because I know there's been an uptick in that. I don't know if that's a fair question or not.
Well, I don't know if I can tell you regionally, Dr. Pettis. I can tell you in terms of what we have continued to see as participation in the programming, and so we continue to see increases in that. If you will recall, last year, if not the year before, my years are getting confused here, but we went ahead and did the split between the dual enrollment and the AP programs. If you recall, there was a time that they were being taught together, and so when we separated those, you always worry, are kids going to lean towards one or the other? And we actually didn't see an impact to it. In fact, we had increased numbers in AP programming. I think that what really motivated kids to do that was they were seeing instruction focused specifically on AP. And whereas in prior years, they were getting a little bit of pre-AP, they were getting a little bit of dual enrollment. But because of that focus on AP and just preparing students for that exam, we saw more students enrolling in the class and also more students testing within those areas. In general, as we spoke to teachers, they seemed to feel that kids had a little bit more confidence going into the test, because that's really, as they sat in those classrooms, that's what the talk was about. There was no dual enrollment discussion. It was very much focused on preparing them for that assessment. And so, while I can't tell you regionally where we are, and we certainly can do some further research on that, just in terms of what we were seeing, that was the general feel and feedback we were getting from our students and from staff.
Well, and I guess the question just comes from a standpoint of wanting to make sure that we follow up with our efforts to increase AP participation, but also with the counseling piece, because I know that the very issue you brought up a couple of years ago when we started doing this, and you guys started to really push enhanced counseling and really getting the parents and students to understand the benefits of dual enrollment versus AP, and when to do one or the other, and maybe when overdoing one could possibly hurt you, and when you're going to universities and things like that. And I hope we're doing a better job with that counseling. But I think at some point, not only to Jerry's point of the Transforming Teaching and Learning Committee opportunity, but a follow-up at some point in terms of how are we doing. Let's sort of check our pulse and on terms of the counseling of students and the participation in both AP and dual enrollment. At the end of the day, I think we all believe and we all know that students that get a jump start into dual enrollment, tend to be the ones that persist and graduate from college. But the same can be said of AP participation, and we just need to make sure we're looking at that and we're just getting the right students to realize that, both both of these tracks, whatever they choose, and some of them are doing both. A lot of them are doing both. They're getting a jump start to college credits, plus they're doing a lot of AP, coursework and testing. I just think the more we can promote this, the better prepared, the better college career readiness rates we're going to have, and the better college persistence and graduation rates we're going to have. And so, obviously, I think we all know this on this board, but I just want to make sure we follow up to see how are we actually doing in comparison to our region, because I think the region as a whole is doing a lot better than some other areas of the state. But I want to make sure we're the best. We're the best of the best.
Absolutely. And I think we've moved more towards that individualization for students, and really looking at when is it beneficial for you to do a dual enrollment. In particular, in a dual enrollment, I think AP coursework sitting on a schedule always looks great, but when is it beneficial to you to do a dual enrollment, and when does it hinder you in doing that? So it's not just a matter of taking as much dual enrollment as you can. It's calling for students to also think strategically about what university they are considering. And so if I'm considering this university and I'm pretty confident that that's where I'm going to be, then we're needing to cross-check their dual enrollment courses to ensure that they're going to be accepted. And if they are not, then you need to be focusing more within your AP track, so that you can, one, generate that college credit, but also take advanced coursework in that area.
That's right, Nolan. Thank you very much. I do apologize. I heard Art say Dr. something, and I didn't hear the end of it, and I didn't think that person was really there. So thank you very much, Nolan, for speaking up. I'm glad to know you're here. I want to just one step further, because I think that's excellent. I do think what we're saying, Alicia and Art, is that it may be a great time for a review, a recap of all the kinds of things we're talking about right now. What's going on with the rigor in the middle school, and that'd be a good place to do some comparison if it's possible. And then what's going on in the high school with both the dual enrollment and I really appreciate that approach. And of course, the better our students do, multiple, not all, but multiple universities, of course, if we really get our students doing really well up there, that it's almost like a dual enrollment. You get your extra bounce there. The fives do in some schools, not all even accept that. But I just think the more we can learn, the better. And we certainly do want to compare ourselves to how we're doing in the region and how we're doing in the state and how we're doing nationally as well. Because we are educating students to be able to study anywhere in the world these days. If we say we are global, we must indeed be preparing students to be global. And I think that there's some reason to believe that we're becoming globally competitive in our own region. Places people say.
I think that when we do that deep dive, Mr. I think that we're going to find that by design, what's really important is how are the kids that are in the AP program faring in the AP exam.
You bet.
The first dashboard matrix, right? Because you can increase enrollment, but it may not be the right kid that's taking the AP program, right? That's
exactly right.
Down that road. But more importantly, we have to remember that by our simple design, our partnership with UTRGV, we do not, those kids that are at early college, high school don't take AP exams because they're getting college credit towards a baccalaureate degree, right? So that's very different. There's a subpopulation that doesn't even take necessarily AP exams because they're working towards a baccalaureate program, right? And that's by design. That's the reason, that's the purpose of that school. The other is that as we bring and stand up IB, those kids will be doing IB tests, not necessarily AP tests, right? And so, but what's going to be critical is those students that have been in the program, how are they performing as they are taking the exams? That's very critical, right? Just like how are the dual credit kids doing in the dual credit courses? I can tell you that some kids that were doing the dual credit courses when we were partnered with TSTC are not faring well with the UTRGV program, right? And so and I think we're going to see that with the AP. We've been part of that. We've been part of that study at Kano Academy, right, with the new AP programming. And so it's getting more rigorous, which is a good thing. I think that, kids have to be college ready at different universities that they choose to. So the deep dive is certainly important, but you'll find that in the deep dive, we're going to find some structural things that we have in place that by design, there's some kids that move in this direction because we have choice, right? And so the choice will lend them either in or out of the AP program as well.
Well, and all of this too, the one other item that's always important to keep in mind is persistence. It would be interesting sometime to have a study on the persistence at the university level, persistence through graduation. Of course, there's so many variables that would be difficult to do, speaking sociologically, but it all adds up. Everything and the rigor. I did hear a comment at the end of our when was it? Several months ago. At the end of before we school, heard a comment when I was visiting Early College High School in regard to what you're referring to a little bit, Art, and that the students were saying that the rigor that they are experiencing now with UTRGV is far and away beyond what they had before. And so good for us for moving in a different direction. Apparently it was a very needed move. So that was very good, I thought. Any other questions? Any other comments? And there's Eladio as well. I can see you. Hello. Well, thank you so much, Alicia. And if there are no other questions, then I guess we can close this meeting and look forward to bringing the item as an agenda item for first reading in our meeting in a few minutes.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.